Bolivia, the Minister of Government Eduardo del Castillo announced that former anti-drug chief Maximiliano Davila will be extradited to the United States after the authorization from the Bolivian Supreme Court of Justice. Davila was apprehended in 2022 while he was trying to cross over to Argentina. The judicial system charged him with transactions in controlled substances and handling arms related to the drug trafficking. In this sense, the President of the Supreme Court of Justice, Marcos Jaimes, explained that before his extradition, authorities should comply with a series of legal requirements and formalities. Following the ceasefire agreed between Israel and Hezbollah and Lebanon, Israel's attacks in the Gaza Strip had intensified, specifically in the Nusra refugee camp, mainly targeting the health sectors. From Gaza, our correspondent Huda Hegazi has more details.
After the ceasefire agreed between the Israeli regime and the Hezbollah movement in Lebanon, the attacks of the Israeli regime in the Gaza Strip have intensified, especially in the last 2 days. Today, the Israeli regime has focused all its attacks specifically on the Nuseirat refugee camp in the central Gaza Strip, specifically in the northern part of the refugee camp.
Decir que desde el comienzo de esta madrugada el régimen de Israel bombardeó de manera aérea y de manera terrestre los edificios más altos de ese campo de refugiados y aproximadamente 5 edificios.
Since the beginning of this morning, the Israeli regime bombed from the air and from the ground the tallest buildings in that refugee camp, and approximately 5 buildings have been destroyed, especially the highest floors, as an attempt by the Israeli army to destroy every tall structure that is in that camp. Because in the case that the army wants to incursion into the interior of that refugee camp is easier for it since it has greater visibility without tall buildings that prevent it from operating or entering in that camp.
También decir que no solamente los edificios elevados han sido bombardeados, sino que también viviendas civiles, aglomeraciones de personas y acorde a la última actualización que ha sido emitida.
Since the beginning of this morning, the Israeli regime bombed from the air and from the ground the tallest buildings in that refugee camp, and approximately 5 buildings have been destroyed, especially the highest floors, as an attempt by the Israeli army to destroy every tall structure that is in that camp. Because in the case that the army wants to incursion into the interior of that refugee camp is easier for it since it has greater visibility without tall buildings that prevent it from operating or entering in that camp. It has been reported that ambulance cars have been directly attacked and one of the cars has been completely destroyed, and the paramedic who was in that ambulance car has been injured, in addition to 2 journalists who were inside it and who were going to report the events at the site of the incident, and one of them is the correspondent of the Al Jazeera channel. So the attack has even been targeted directly at the medical personnel as well as at the journalists to prevent them from showing the atrocities of the occupation regime. Moreover, other ambulance cars have been partially damaged by the shrapnel that has fallen from the missiles and artillery shells, and at this moment the biggest fear is the possibility of a land incursion, since at this moment it has been reported that the military mechanisms and tanks of the occupation army are being relocated in the north of that camp, and at any moment they could incursion into that place. Finally, the latest communique issued by the Palestinian Ministry of Health here in the Gaza Strip was a message addressed especially to the international community and the World Health Organization, in which the situation of the hospitals in the Gaza Strip was reported. The ministry has assured that approximately 75% of the hospitals and medical centers have collapsed and are of service.
el 75% de los hospitales y centros médicos han colapsado y han salido fuera de servicio. Solamente quedan 5 hospitales activos en la Franja de
Only 5
Gaza,
hospitals
una
remain
cantidad
active in the Gaza
insuficiente para el
Strip,
número
an
de víctimas
insufficient
y para
number
el
for the
número
amount of
de heridos
casualties
que
and
se
wounded that
producen
occur
de
on a
manera
daily
diaria
basis
debido
due
a
to
los
the
bombardeos del
occupation army
ejército de la
shelling.
ocupación.
It has also
También se ha
condemned the closure
condenado
of the
el cierre de
borders,
las
the
fronteras,
prevention of
el
the entry of
impedimento
medical
de la
supplies
entrada de
and goods as
suministros
well as
médicos y
fuel,
mercancías,
which is
así como
something that is
combustibles,
directly
que es
affecting the
algo que
health
está
sector,
afectando de
and
manera
therefore the
directa al
ministry
sector
has directly
sanitario y,
condemned the
por lo tanto,
indiscriminate
el
attacks of the
Ministerio ha
occupation
condenado de
army,
manera directa
especially on the
los
health sector here
ataques
in the Gaza Strip.
indiscriminados del ejército de la ocupación, sobre todo al sector sanitario aquí en la Franja de Gaza.
The legendary Gothic Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris will be open its doors on December the 7th, 5.5 years after the devastating fire in 2019. The world will get a first look inside the renovated Gothic jewel on Friday when French President Emmanuel Macron is accompanied by his wife Brigitte and Archbishop of Paris, Laurent Ulrich, begins a program of ceremonies that will culminate with an official entry into the cathedral on December the 7th. The first Catholic Mass is scheduled to be held the following days. The cathedral roof was severely damaged and it's totally destroyed by a devastating fire on the eve of April 15, 2019. Among the theories for the cause of the blast are a cigarette left by a workman or an electric fail. Venezuelan Executive Vice President Delcy Rodriguez opened on Thursday the 17th edition of the nation's International Tourist Fair, FIDEVEN 2024, with the participation of more than 40 countries. On behalf of President Nicolas Maduro, Rodriguez welcomed the participating countries and international delegations, as well as national entrepreneurs. She reminded that tourism is a vital engine to boost not only the country's development, but that of the peoples of the region. The Vice President also took the opportunity to reject the new coercive measures adopted by the U.S. government against Caracas and denounce Washington's intentions to hurt the Venezuelan officials who are working for the well-being of their homeland. In Bolivia, the Minister of Government Eduardo del Castillo announced that former anti-drug chief Maximiliano Davila will be extradited to the United States after the authorization from the Bolivian Supreme Court of Justice. Davila was apprehended in 2022 while he was trying to cross over to